Hey there, and welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
We're jumping into something pretty interesting happening over in Japan right now. This big rise in people setting up what they're calling micro corporations.
Yeah.
You've given us a whole bunch of source material on this article's data, things people are saying online, and, well, our mission today is to really dig into that and pull out the key stuff to understand why it's happening.
And it's really important to get this straight up front. Microcorporation isn't like an official legal thing in Japan.
Right.
It's just what people are calling these small companies, often just one person set up as a proper company, like a KK or a GK.
A kabushiki kaisha or godo kaisha.
Exactly. And the whole point usually is to handle taxes and costs differently than if you're just a sole proprietor, a kujin jigyanushi.
Okay.
And all the info we're looking at is super current, like as of May 28, 2025. That's key because things, rules and trends, they change.
Got it. So we're diving into your sources to figure out the main reasons for this shift, look at the upsides people are talking about, but also the downsides, the challenges.
Yeah.
Really get to the bottom of it.
Okay.
So let's start with what this actually is. What does this trend look like on the ground?
Well, the sources show it's not just talk. You can see in the numbers. Lots more sole proprietors, freelancers, they're making this jump. And it seems to be really picking up steam right now. It connects to, how work changed after COVID, more remote stuff, new business models popping up.
Makes sense.
And there's definitely a buzz. You see it on places like X, specifically about the money side saving on taxes and especially social insurance.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack those money drivers because it sounds like a huge part of it. The sources really flag social insurance premiums. If you're self-employed, your national health insurance, your national pension, those costs can be, well, pretty massive, right? Especially if you earn decent money.
Oh, absolutely. It's a major pain point. The sources give a pretty stark example.
Yeah.
Say you're a sole proprietor earning 10 million yen a year.
Okay.
Your health insurance could be around 800,000 yen. Your pension, maybe another 200,000. That's like a million yen gone just for social insurance.
Yeah.
Every year.
Oof. Wow. Okay, that's serious money. So how does setting up this micro corporation, how does that strategy actually help with that?
Right. So this is where it gets kind of clever. You set up the company and then you become an employee of your own company.
Even if you're the only employee.
Even if you're the only one. And then you join the employee social insurance system, Shekai Hoken.
Which works differently. It's based on the salary the company pays you.
Exactly. And the really crucial bit is that the premiums for employee insurance are basically split 50-50 between the company and the employee.
Okay.
So for the same level of coverage, your personal out-of-pocket cost can end up being way lower than the national system if you're earning a lot.
Let's use that example from the sources again, the 10 million yen earner. They set up the microcorp, pay themselves a pretty low salary, say 100,000 yen a month, that's 1.2 million a year.
Yeah.
What happens to their social insurance then?
So the source calculates that with that 1.2 million salary, the total annual premium for employee social insurance might be around, say, 336,000 yen.
Oh, okay.
Remember, that's split. So the individual pays about half, maybe 168,000 yen. The company pays the other 168,000.
Hold on. So instead of paying maybe a million yen out of pocket as a sole proprietor, you set this up, pay yourself low, and your personal cost drops to like 168,000. The total company plus you cost is only 336,000. That's saving over 660,000 yen a year just on insurance.
That's the potential, yeah.
Right.
They got a massive difference.
Wow.
And the sources even mentioned, anecdotes flying around on X. Someone apparently claimed they only paid 270,000 yen in social insurance over 10 years using this.
10 years.
Now, obviously, you have to be careful with online claims.
Sure. Grain of salt.
But it really highlights the kind of savings people are chasing. It's a huge motivator.
Okay. Social insurance is clearly a massive piece. What's the second big money reason? You mentioned tax.
Right. Tax optimization.
Yeah.
Japan's personal income tax, it's progressive. The more you earn, the higher the rate climbs. Up to 33% over 10 million, plus you've got the 10% local resident tax on top. But corporate tax rates are generally lower, especially for smaller companies. Could be down around 23.2%.
So the game is to have your income taxed at that lower corporate rate instead of the higher personal rate.
Pretty much. And corporations can also deduct a wider range of expenses.
Like what?
Well, your own executive salary is a corporate expense. Office rent, travel, supplies. Lots of things can potentially be deducted before the corporate tax is calculated.
Okay.
And this connects to something the sources talk about, this idea of the 1.23 million yen barrier, which seems linked to the 2025 tax reforms.
The 1.23 million barrier. Okay, break that down. What is that?
So think about how tax works. You get deductions off your income before tax is calculated.
Right, allowances.
Yeah. If you're getting a salary, there's a salary income deduction. Everyone gets a basic deduction too. With the 2025 rules, the way these stack up, combined with local tax rules, it basically means if your total salary for the year is 1.23 million yen or less, your personal income tax bill could actually be zero or very, very close to it.
I get it. So the strategy is set your salary from your own microcorporation at or just under that 1.23 million yen level.
Exactly. You pay yourself a low salary. That salary generates minimal, maybe zero personal income tax.
Okay.
All the rest of the profit your business makes, it stays inside the corporation. And that money gets taxed at the lower corporate rate.
So back to our 10 million yen earner again. They take a 1.2 million salary, almost no personal tax on that. The remaining 8.8 million is corporate profit, tax at maybe 23.2% inside the company. That's way better than having the whole 10 million hit by personal rates of 33% plus the local tax.
It can be a very significant tax saving, especially for people earning good money. But, the sources say it's not just about the bottom line.
Right. This is interesting. Reason number 3 the sources point to is social credibility and maybe better business opportunities.
Yeah, perception is a funny thing. In Japan, having that official company structure, even if it's tiny, just seems, well, more trustworthy or legitimate to some people compared to just operating as an individual.
Okay. Like maybe bigger companies you want to work with or banks if you need a loan. They might prefer dealing with a corporation.
That's definitely part of it. Some might even require it. So setting up a microcorp can sometimes open doors that were closed to you as a sole proprietor.
Makes sense.
And the sources mention that ex post again.
Yeah.
Someone saying this structure lets them take on unusual projects with low margins that bigger companies might skip. So maybe it offers some flexibility too.
Interesting angle. Okay, reason 4. Apparently it's just gotten easier to actually do this, to set up and manage a company.
Yeah, that seems to be a factor too. Technology helps. Digital tools, online services. They've apparently made things like getting the documents ready, doing the registration much smoother than it used to be.
Less red tape, maybe. And what about cost? Is it expensive to set up?
The sources give some ballpark figures. For a joint stock company, a KK, maybe 180,000 to 240,000 yen. For a limited liability company, a GK, it's less, maybe 60,000 to 100,000 yen.
Okay, so not free, but maybe not a huge barrier for a successful freelancer.
Right. And there was that quote from X someone shared. Something like, cost about 200,000 yen to set up. You can make that back in 2 months.
Yeah. If the savings are what we talked about earlier, that payback could be really quick. Makes the upfront cost seem smaller.
Exactly.
Okay, reason 5 feels connected to everything else, just the way people work now. Remote work, freelancing, all that stuff that really took off after COVID.
For sure. You've got more people managing their own careers, maybe juggling different projects or income sources.
Right.
And handling the admin for all that. AXA's insurance can get complicated on your own. So having the structure of a microcorporation might just feel like a cleaner way to manage it all.
Yeah.
The sources even mention people talking on X about a dual wielding approach.
Dual wielding. What's that?
Like having both a microcorporation and continuing some work as a sole proprietor, using both structures as tools to fit these really flexible modern ways of working.
Okay, that's complex but interesting. And the last reason, number 6, seems pretty straightforward. People just know more about this now.
Yeah, simple awareness. The information's just out there much more than before. You see it on like Yahoo News, on YouTube channels.
People sharing their stories.
Exactly. Their experiences, tips, strategies, and even warnings, The sources mentioned article titles like regret. Some people choose to abandon microcorporations.
Right, so it's not all hype.
No, but the fact that the conversation is happening, that information is being shared so widely, it naturally leads to more people thinking, maybe I should look into this.
Okay, so those seem like really solid reasons. Big financial incentives, credibility boost, easier setup, fitting new work styles, and just more awareness. And the stats seem to show this isn't just theory.
No, the numbers confirm it. TSR Data Insights reported a record number of new companies set up in 2024, over 153,000.
Wow.
And if you look at older data, like the 2021 economic census, something like 60% of all incorporated businesses in Japan had 4 or fewer employees.
So a huge chunk are already really small.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suggests a lot of them are probably these kinds of owner-operated micro setups we're talking about.
Okay, that paints a really compelling picture of why this is taking off. But the sources definitely throw some cold water on it too, right? It's not presented as like a perfect solution for absolutely everyone.
No, absolutely not. And that raises the big question, who shouldn't do this? The sources explicitly mention those ex posts saying microcore cannot be recommended for ordinary people.
Why not? What are the risks or downsides?
Well, they point to things like the work itself might be unstable, project-based, and if you're a one-person operation, there's no safety net if you get sick or injured. You are the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about the admin side? Is it actually more complicated than just being a sole proprietor?
Oh, for sure. Setting it up might be easier now, but running a corporation means more complex accounting. You have corporate tax returns to file, maybe dealing with consumption tax.
Okay.
It's definitely more paperwork.
Okay.
And there are fixed costs you can't avoid.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned the corporate resident tax, that local tax, it's maybe around 70,000 yen a year, and you have to pay that even if your company doesn't make any profit that year.
Ooh, right. So if you have a bad year or your income is really up and down.
Exactly. Those fixed costs plus the extra accounting hassle. It could easily eat up any savings you might have made on insurance or tax, especially if your income isn't that high to begin with.
So it really is a trade-off.
Definitely. If you compare them side by side like the sources do. Sole proprietor, high potential social insurance costs, progressive personal tax, maybe lower perceived trust, but zero setup cost and simply admin.
Versus
The microcore. Potentially much lower social insurance costs, optimized taxes, maybe higher trust. But there's an initial setup cost and definitely more complex ongoing management. It's a balance.
Okay. So bringing it all together, the takeaway from the sources seems to be, yes, the appeal is strong, especially those massive potential savings for higher earners, plus the credibility factor. That's clearly driving this trend.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not automatic. You really have to crunch the numbers for your own situation, your income level, how stable your business is, and honestly, whether you're willing to deal with the extra admin burden.
Exactly. It requires careful thought.
So we've talked about these huge potential savings, especially on insurance and tax if you're earning well, but we've also seen the complexities, the fixed costs, and that really strong warning from the sources that this cannot be recommended for ordinary people.
Right.
It makes you wonder, does this microcorporation trend really only make sense if you hit a certain income threshold, or maybe if you have a particular kind of business savvy to navigate it all? What does that balance, that mix of high potential reward but also significant practical hurdles and risks? What does that mean for you, the listener, if you're sitting there thinking about this path?
That is the crucial question, isn't it?
It really is. Lots to chew on there. Thank you for giving us these sources to dig into today. We hope this deep dive has helped shed some light on what's behind Japan's micro corporation boom. Definitely keep exploring these ideas.